I never expected my Sunday family tradition to turn into a crime scene, but everything changed when I caught my husband drop something into my soup. It happened in a split second while everyone else at the crowded dining table was laughing at a joke. His hand hovered just an inch above my bowl. His fingers twitched slightly, and a tiny white speck vanished into the thick chicken broth. He didn't realize I was watching him, nor did he see me freeze in sheer terror as he smoothly turned back to his father and continued talking about work. My chest tightened so painfully that I became convinced the entire room could hear the frantic rhythm of my heart. I kept staring down at the warm bowl, trying to detect any visible sign of what had just been introduced to my dinner. It was the exact same chicken noodle soup his mother prepared for us every single week, and it looked completely normal because the substance had already dissolved entirely. When his mother noticed my sudden stillness and asked if I was feeling all right, I quickly lied and claimed I was just exhausted. My name is Elena Vance, and I had just witnessed my husband attempt to poison me. I managed to keep my voice perfectly steady as I assured everyone I was fine, looking around the table at the cheerful faces of my extended family. My husband Caleb was eating his own portion with absolute normalcy, even complimenting his mother and asking for a second helping to maintain his innocent facade. Then he shifted his gaze directly toward me, asking why I hadn't touched my food with a strange, calculating look in his eyes. I picked up my spoon without letting my hand tremble, calmly stating that I was simply waiting for the hot broth to cool down before taking a bite. Excusing myself to use the restroom, I noticed Caleb's jaw tighten with brief agitation, but I kept walking down the hallway and locked myself inside the bathroom. With trembling fingers, I pulled out my phone to call for help before a harsh wave of reality forced me to stop. I had absolutely no physical evidence to back up my claim, meaning the authorities would likely dismiss my story as paranoia. So I realized I had to be incredibly smart. Looking at my reflection in the mirror, I began connecting the dots of Caleb's increasingly bizarre behavior over the last few months, from his hidden phone passwords to secret garage phone calls. After splashing cold water on my face to stop my mind from racing, I returned to the dining room where the family was still chatting about school plays and soccer practices. My untouched bowl sat precisely where I had left it, and Caleb immediately questioned my long absence while gesturing toward the soup. I gave him a reassuring smile and picked up my spoon again, waiting patiently for the perfect moment of distraction to execute a desperate plan. That opportunity arrived when his mother walked into the kitchen to check on the dessert, and his sister turned around to clean up a spill. With Caleb fully distracted by a notification on his phone, I swiftly swapped my poisoned bowl with his mother's identical untouched portion. My pulse was hammering wildly against my ribs, but my hands remained perfectly steady as I placed the dangerous soup directly into her seating area. When Caleb finally looked up and saw me chewing a spoonful of what he believed was my original dinner, he visibly relaxed and offered a genuine smile. I even told him how delicious it tasted, hiding the overwhelming dread consuming my mind as his mother walked back into the room. She announced her intention to finish her soup before serving the pie, reaching out for the exact bowl I had just placed in front of her chair. Caleb noticed the switch a second too late, his entire face turning completely bloodless as he frantically tried to shout at her to wait. His mother swallowed the spoonful anyway, looking at her son with deep confusion as his hand remained frozen halfway across the table. He quickly forced a strained laugh and covers his panic by telling her to save enough room for the apple pie. A tense silence washed over me as I watched Caleb's legs shake violently under the table while his father continued talking about a recent golf game. I calmly ate from the safe bowl, keeping my eyes glued to my watch to note the exact time of 6:42 in case symptoms began to show. His mother eventually pushed the half-empty bowl away, claiming she was getting too full, which caused Caleb to let out a quiet sigh of relief. I began to wonder if I had mistakenly misread the entire situation, until his mother suddenly let out a sharp, dry cough. Within minutes, her hand began to tremble noticeably, as she asked if anyone else felt an unusual amount of heat radiating through the dining room. Her husband dismissed the comment, but Caleb immediately stood up and urgently suggested that his mother go lie down in the other room. She pressed a hand against her chest, her face turning a sickly shade of white, as she confessed to feeling incredibly strange and unstable. His sister rushed to her side just as her legs completely gave out, prompting Caleb to scream at his father to call emergency services. By the time the ambulance arrived 12 minutes later, his mother's eyes had rolled back, leaving the entire family screaming in absolute chaos while I sat frozen. I watched the genuine terror in Caleb's eyes, realizing his fear wasn't driven by concern for his mother, but by the private dread of getting caught. The paramedics quickly loaded her onto a stretcher and stated they were transporting her to the nearest hospital, with Caleb jumping into the emergency vehicle beside her. After the rest of the family left, I convinced his sister to take the crying children upstairs, so I could clean the kitchen alone. The moment the house grew quiet, I put on rubber gloves and carefully poured the remaining tainted soup into a secure plastic container. I sealed the bowl and the spoon inside heavy bags to preserve the evidence before calling my estranged brother Julian, who worked in a toxicology lab. I gave him the address and begged him to run a comprehensive chemical analysis on the samples without asking any immediate questions. After hiding the evidence in my purse, I received a text from Caleb claiming his mother suffered a cardiac event and ordering me to stay put. Julian arrived 30 minutes later, taking the bags from my hands with a look of intense concern when I demanded the results within 24 hours. I went back inside to wait, and Caleb finally returned home at 3 a.m, looking entirely drained and emotionally defeated. He sat beside me and wept, claiming the doctors believed her heart was failing, acting so perfectly that I would have believed him if I hadn't seen the truth. He reached out to squeeze my hand with a sweaty palm, confessing that he had secretly accumulated $200,000 of serious debt. He claimed his mother's sudden medical emergency made him realize that life was too short to harbor secrets, promising we would fix the financial disaster together. I offered a supportive nod while staring at the wall, knowing full well about the $500,000 life insurance policy he had made me sign. The document included a double indemnity clause for accidental death, meaning he wasn't looking to fix the debt through hard work, but through my murder. The following morning, the moment Caleb left for the hospital, I broke into his home office files and uncovered his massive gambling debts. My phone rang an hour later with Julian confirming that the soup was heavily laced with digitalis, a heart medication that causes fatal cardiac arrest in high doses. My blood ran cold as my brother urged me to go to the police, but I knew I needed a definitive confession first. Caleb sent a text stating his mother was being released and asked me to pick up her new prescriptions, which included digitalis. I realized he had been stealing her medication for months, slowly poisoning my daily meals to build up a lethal tolerance that would look like a natural failure. I retrieved the medication and brought it to his parents' house, finding his mother resting on the sofa while Caleb took the pharmacy bag upstairs. I quietly followed him up the steps, pausing outside the bathroom door where I could hear the distinct sound of pills being crushed into powder. Recognizing he was preparing another lethal dose for me, I quietly turned on my phone's audio recorder and pushed the bathroom door open. Caleb spun around in shock, holding a mortar and pestle covered in white residue while attempting to claim he was simply helping his mother swallow her pills. I looked him dead in the eye and revealed that I had the soup tested, proving he had attempted to murder me with lethal amounts of digitalis. His jaw clenched as his supportive husband persona completely vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating expression that made my skin crawl. He took a threatening step toward me, mockingly stating that a stolen soup sample and an ambiguous audio recording would never hold up in a court of law. I countered by revealing I had copied all his financial records, loan shark threats, and insurance policies to establish a clear, undeniable motive. Caleb lunged forward and twisted my wrist with terrifying force, causing my phone to clatter across the tile floor as he slammed me against the wall. His fingers wrapped tightly around my throat, cutting off my oxygen until his mother suddenly appeared in the doorway and screamed his name. He froze in horror, allowing me to drop to the floor, gasping for air, as his mother wept, realizing her own son had poisoned her. His father appeared behind her and immediately called the police, forcing a panicked Caleb to sprint down the stairs and flee into the night. The authorities apprehended Caleb 3 hours later near the state border, and the subsequent 5-month trial ended with a swift guilty verdict and a sentence of 25 years to life. A year has passed since that horrific night, and while I still struggle to trust anyone, I'm grateful to be alive in my new city. People often tell me I should have fled the house immediately, that taking control of the situation and securing proof is the only reason I survived. Share your opinion by dropping comments. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you love your children.